By morning, word had spread. Hana woke to find 30 alien scientists gathered outside her quarters. Some were taking notes. Others had brought scanning equipment. A few looked angry, like she'd insulted them personally. Maybe she had. The kitchenette in their quarters was small, meant for basic food preparation. But it was enough. Hana had set up her grandmother's cast-iron pan on a heating element. Beside it sat a piece of beef brought from Earth in stasis. Next to that, her notebook filled with years of research on cooking chemistry. Mirai had spent the night setting up measurement equipment borrowed from the Institute. Plasma detectors, temperature sensors, high-speed cameras. If this worked, they needed proof. Data that couldn't be argued with. Jinho stood near the door looking nervous. He kept adjusting his collar. "There are more people out there now," he whispered. "I count at least 40. Some of them are senior researchers. This is getting out of control." "Good," Hana said. She was calm. Calmer than she'd felt yesterday. This was familiar ground. She knew cooking. She knew her pan. Let them watch. At exactly the appointed time, Velcros arrived. The crowd parted for him. He looked at the setup with obvious disdain.
"This is your advanced technology?"
"A primitive heating device and a piece of metal?" "Yes," Hana said simply. Behind Velcros, a younger Thalorian pushed forward. Her crystalline skin had a green tint, and her eyes were bright with curiosity. "I am Dr. Zyril," she said. "I specialize in thermal dynamics. May I observe your instruments?" "Of course," Mirai said, gesturing to the equipment. An elderly alien with 4 arms and wrinkled gray skin shuffled closer. "Professor Quental," he introduced himself. His voice was soft and kind. "I have studied materials for 200 years. I am very interested to see what you will show us." Hana nodded respectfully. Then she turned on the heating element. "First," she explained as the pan began to heat, "you need to understand what cast iron is. It's not a pure metal. It's iron with carbon mixed in, about 3%. When it's manufactured and used repeatedly, it develops a specific crystalline structure. Porous, lots of tiny spaces." She pointed to the pan's surface. "Then we season it. We coat it with oil and heat it. The oil breaks down and polymerizes, creating a layer of carbon chains bonded to the metal. This layer builds up over time. My grandmother's pan has 60 years of seasoning. Thousands of layers." Dr. Zyril was watching the temperature readings. "The pan is approaching 900 Kelvin. That's hot, but nowhere near the millions of degrees needed for plasma formation." "For fusion plasma, yes," Hana agreed. "But watch." The pan was glowing now. Not red hot. Beyond that. The air above it shimmered with heat. Hana picked up the piece of beef. It was a good cut with fat marbled through it. Perfect for the demonstration. She placed the meat on the pan. The sound was immediate and dramatic. A loud sizzle that made several aliens jump back. But it wasn't just sound. Tiny flashes of light erupted at every point where meat touched metal. Little sparks. Dancing across the surface. The instruments went wild. Dr. Zyril stared at her scanner. Her crystalline face shifted colors rapidly. "Plasma," she whispered. "True plasma discharge. 4th state matter confirmed." She looked up at Hana. "But the temperature is only 900 Kelvin. This should be impossible." "It's chemical plasma," Hana explained, not taking her eyes off the cooking meat. "When the fats and proteins hit the hot surface, they vaporize instantly. The vapor ionizes. The iron in the pan acts as a catalyst. The seasoning layer manages the reaction. You get plasma formation at relatively low temperatures." She flipped the steak. More flashes. More plasma discharge. The smell of cooking meat filled the room. Several aliens' noses or equivalent organs twitched. "The pan isn't containing the plasma in the way you think of containment," Hana continued. "It's creating an interface, a surface where plasma can form and dissipate safely, thousands of times per second. The energy is distributed through the metal's structure. The seasoning layer protects the base metal from degradation." Professor Quental moved closer, his 4 arms clasped together. "Remarkable. You're not fighting the plasma. You're cooperating with it, managing it through material chemistry rather than electromagnetic force." "Exactly," Hana said. She removed the steak from the pan and set it on a plate. The meat was perfectly seared, with a dark crust on the outside and pink inside. "We've been doing this for thousands of years. We just didn't know we were doing advanced plasma physics. We thought we were making dinner." Velcros had been silent, watching. His face showed no colors now, just blank crystalline blue. The readings could be wrong, he said finally. Instrument error. Dr. Zyril shook her head. Master Velcros, I calibrated these instruments myself this morning. They're reading correctly. This is genuine plasma formation. At temperatures we would have said were impossible for plasma generation. Perhaps a different type of plasma, another scientist suggested. Not true fourth-state matter. Miri pulled up data on her tablet. The spectral analysis confirms ionization, free electrons, all the markers of fourth-state matter. It's plasma. Lower energy than fusion plasma, sure, but still plasma, Hana cut into the steak. Would anyone like to try it? The plasma discharge is what creates the flavor. The Maillard reaction, we call it. Chemical changes in the proteins and sugars. Humans have been chasing this taste for our entire history. Professor Quental stepped forward. I would be honored. Hana cut a small piece and handed it to him. The professor placed it in his mouth carefully. His eyes widened, then he laughed. A deep rumbling sound that seemed to come from all four of his lungs. 3,000 years, he said, still laughing. The Thalorians have studied materials for 3,000 years. And a human grandmother with a piece of iron has been doing plasma physics every time she made dinner. This is the most humbling day of my life. And the most wonderful. Other scientists crowded forward now, wanting to see the data, examine the pan, understand what they'd just witnessed. Dr. Zyril was already making notes, her hands moving fast over her data pad. We need to study this, she said to Hana. Really study it. The implications are enormous. If we can understand the principle, we might be able to apply it to industrial-scale plasma management, fusion reactors, propulsion systems, manufacturing processes that require plasma containment. We? Velcros's voice cut through the excitement. There is no we. This is clearly a trick, or a mistake, or... He seemed to run out of words. Or we were wrong, Professor Quental said gently. It happens, Velcros. Even to us, especially to us. We've been so focused on high-energy plasma that we missed an entire category of plasma interactions happening at lower energy states. Velcros turned and walked out. The crowd parted for him again. But this time no one followed. They stayed asking questions, examining equipment, and watching as Hana cooked 2 more steaks to gather additional data. By the end of the demonstration, Hana had served steak samples to 15 different species. Most found it edible. Some found it delicious. All of them found it scientifically revolutionary. Jinho pulled Hana aside during a quiet moment. You know what you've done, right? You've just changed humanity's position in the galaxy. Yesterday we were barely tolerated guests. Today, he shook his head. Today we're something else. We're partners, Hana said. That's all I wanted. For them to see us as partners, not primitives. Dr. Zyril approached them. Dr. Kim, I would like to formally request collaboration. My team studies thermodynamics and material interactions. With your knowledge of culinary plasma generation, we could develop entirely new approaches to plasma containment. Will you work with us? Hana smiled. I'd like that. But I have one condition. Name it. We need a better kitchen. Dr. Zyril's crystalline face shifted to a warm amber color. Hana decided that must be a smile. I think that can be arranged. That evening, as the crowd finally dispersed, Hana sat alone with her grandmother's pan. She cleaned it carefully the way she'd been taught. No soap, just hot water and a stiff brush. Then she dried it and rubbed a thin layer of oil into the surface. The pan had traveled across the galaxy to prove a point. And it had. But more than that, it had opened a door. Humans weren't just learning from the galaxy now. The galaxy was learning from humans. Mire sat down beside her. Do you think they'll accept it? Really accept it? Some will, Hana said. Some won't. Velcros might never admit we were right. But Dr. Zyril will. Professor Quental will. And that's enough. That's how change starts. One person at a time, willing to look at old problems in new ways. She set the pan down gently. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. They'd need to test other cookware. Document everything. Develop theories. Build on what human culture had discovered by accident. But tonight, she just felt grateful. Grateful to her grandmother, who had taught her to respect good tools and traditional methods. Grateful to all the human cooks throughout history who had perfected these techniques without knowing they were doing science. Sometimes the most advanced technology is the one you've been using all along. You just have to know where to look. The transport ship shook as it entered the atmosphere of Raxus Prime. Hana Kim pressed her face against the window, watching the blue and silver planet grow larger. This was it, the moment Earth had been waiting for. Humanity's first invitation to the Galactic Metallurgical Institute. "Stop looking so excited," Jinho Park muttered from the seat beside her. He was older than Hana, maybe 45, with gray streaks in his black hair. "They already think we're primitives. Don't make it worse." Hana pulled back from the window and straightened her jacket. "We are primitives. By their standards. But that's why we're here, right? To learn." Mireille Choi, sitting across from them, looked up from her tablet. She was younger than Hana, maybe 28, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "I read the briefing 3 times, she said. "The Thalorians have been studying materials for 3,000 years. 3,000. We've had space travel for less than 200. The ship landed with a soft thump. Through the window, Hana could see the Institute rising in the distance. It looked like a mountain made of crystal and metal, catching the light of 3 suns. Hundreds of ships from different worlds sat on landing pads around it. Each one was different. Some looked like birds, some like geometric shapes. Earth's ship looked like a tin can with engines. A tall figure waited for them at the base of the loading ramp. Very tall, maybe 9 feet. His skin was blue and crystalline, reflecting light like a diamond. This was Forge Master Velcros, head of the Institute. Hana recognized him from the video calls. "Welcome," Velcros said. His voice was deep and cold. "I am required to give you a tour. Please try not to touch anything important." Jinho's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. They followed Velcros into the Institute. The halls were massive, built for species much larger than humans. Everything gleamed. Clean white walls, floors that looked like liquid silver, lights that had no visible source. "This is the main research wing," Velcros explained. Walking so fast the humans had to jog to keep up. "We have 47 species represented here, each contributing to our understanding of materials science." He paused. "Well, 46 species that actually contribute. And then there's Earth." Mireille made a small sound. Hana touched her arm, shaking her head. "Not worth it. Not yet." They passed laboratories where alien scientists worked with materials that seemed impossible. Metals that flowed like water, crystals that sang, something that looked solid but wasn't there when you reached for it. Each lab had windows, and scientists from different species stopped to stare at the humans. Some looked curious, most looked dismissive. "And here," Velcros said, stopping at a large door, "is our plasma containment research facility. The cutting edge of material science." The door opened. The room beyond was huge, maybe the size of a football field. In the center sat a machine that hummed with power. Pipes and cables ran everywhere. Screens showed numbers and graphs that changed too fast to read. 20 or 30 alien scientists worked around it, all wearing protective gear. "Plasma," Velcro said, "is the 4th state of matter, beyond solid, liquid, and gas. It exists at extreme temperatures. Stars are made of plasma. Our fusion reactors need plasma to function. But plasma is difficult, very difficult." He led them to a viewing window. Inside a chamber, something glowed white-hot. Even through the window, Hana could feel the heat. The glow pulsed and writhed, held in place by nothing visible. "Electromagnetic containment," Velcros explained. "The only way to hold plasma. We cannot use physical materials. Watch." He touched a control. A small piece of metal descended into the chamber on a wire. The moment it touched the plasma, it vanished. Just gone, not melted. "Not burned, erased. That was our strongest titanium alloy," Velcro said. There was pride in his voice. "Lasted 0.3 seconds. We have tried everything, every material known to science. All 47 species have contributed their best work. The conclusion is absolute." He turned to look at the humans, his crystalline face reflecting their small forms. "No material can hold plasma. This is a fundamental truth of the universe." Hana had been quiet until now. She'd been watching the demonstration, her mind working. She thought about her grandmother's kitchen back in Seoul, the old cast-iron pan that had been in the family for 60 years. The way it glowed when it got hot enough. The sizzle when meat hit the surface. She raised her hand. Velcro stared at her. "Yes?" "That's how we cook steak," Hana said. The room went silent. Every alien in the facility turned to look. Jinho closed his eyes. Mireille's mouth fell open. "What?" Velcro said slowly. "Did you just say?" "Steak," Hana repeated. She walked closer to the window, pointing at the plasma. On Earth, when we cook meat, we heat a metal pan very hot. Hot enough that when the meat touches it, plasma forms at the contact point. Little flashes of it. We use cast iron usually. It's a type of metal, iron with carbon in it. Velcross's face did something strange. Color shifted under his crystalline skin. Hana wasn't sure if that meant he was angry or confused. Maybe both. You are claiming, he said, his voice very quiet now, that your primitive cooking implements regularly contain plasma. Not contain, Hana said. Interact with. The pan doesn't trap the plasma. It just manages it. The surface of the pan, when it's properly seasoned, creates a chemical interface. The plasma forms and dissipates in microseconds, but it happens thousands of times while cooking. My grandmother's pan has done this probably millions of times. It's fine. Still works great. One of the alien scientists laughed. A short barking sound. Others started whispering. Velcros drew himself up to his full height. This is absurd. You are describing plasma formation at impossible temperatures. Plasma requires millions of degrees. For fusion plasma, sure, Hana agreed. But there are different types of plasma. Chemical plasma forms at much lower temperatures. When fats and proteins vaporize and ionize on a hot metal surface, you get plasma discharge. It's visible if you look carefully. Little sparks and flashes. Any decent steakhouse on Earth creates plasma hundreds of times a night. Impossible, Velcro said flatly. I can prove it, Hana said. The whispering grew louder. Jinho stepped forward, putting a hand on Hana's shoulder. Maybe we should— I can prove it, Hana said again louder. Give me a kitchen. Give me 24 hours. I'll show you plasma containment using technology that's thousands of years old on Earth. Technology that every human household has. Velcros looked at her for a long moment. Colors continued to shift under his skin. Finally, he spoke. Very well. I will arrange for a food preparation area in your quarters. Tomorrow you will demonstrate this, cooking plasma. He said the words like they tasted bad. When you fail, perhaps you will understand why Earth was barely granted entry to this institute. Perhaps you will learn some humility. He turned and walked away. The other scientists slowly returned to their work, but Hana could feel their eyes on her. Some looked amused. A few looked angry. One young Thalorian with green-tinted crystalline skin watched her with something that might have been curiosity. As they left the facility, Jinho pulled Hana aside. What are you doing? He hissed. You just challenged the head of the most important materials science institute in the galaxy. Based on cooking? I know what I'm talking about, Hana said. I've been studying plasma formation and culinary processes for 5 years. It's real. We just never thought of it as advanced science because it's so common. Mirai was grinning. This is either brilliant or insane. Probably both, Hana admitted. That night in their quarters, Hana unpacked her personal luggage. At the bottom, wrapped carefully in cloth, was her grandmother's cast iron pan. She'd brought it as a reminder of home. Now it might be the key to changing humanity's place in the galaxy. She ran her fingers over the smooth, dark surface. 60 years of cooking had built up layers of polymerized oil, creating a nearly non-stick surface that was also chemically active, perfect for managing plasma interactions. Jinho sat down beside her. You really think this will work? I know it will work, Hana said. The question is whether they'll be able to understand what they're seeing. They've been thinking about plasma containment all wrong. They're trying to fight it with force. We learned to dance with it instead. By accident. Because we wanted our food to taste good. She looked at the pan, then at her reflection in its dark surface. Tomorrow she would either make humanity look foolish or she would change everything. There was no middle ground. We should get some sleep, Mirai suggested. But Hana stayed up late into the night reviewing her notes, checking her measurements, and thinking about her grandmother. The old woman had never finished high school. She'd spent her life cooking for her family. She'd never thought of herself as a scientist, but maybe, Hana thought, the best science is the kind you do without knowing it, the kind that gets passed down through generations because it works, even if no one can explain why. Tomorrow the galaxy would learn what human grandmothers had known all along. 1 month later, the institute didn't look the same. Half of the Grand Forge had been converted into what everyone was calling the Culinary Research Wing. What had once been a solemn temple of materials science now smelled like cooking oil and roasted meat. Some of the older scientists complained. Most of them were too busy taking notes to care. Hana stood in what had become her primary laboratory. It was enormous, 20 cooking stations, each equipped with both human and alien measurement equipment. 47 species had sent representatives. The human delegation had grown from 3 people to 15. A cargo ship had arrived from Earth last week carrying cooking equipment. Cast iron pans of different ages, woks, griddles, even an old Korean barbecue grill that Taewoo Jin had insisted they needed. Taewoo himself had arrived on that same ship, along with containers full of food and an enthusiasm that made even Hana seem calm. "Look at this," Taewoo said, gesturing to the barbecue grill. He was 38 with quick hands and an easy smile. "This grill is marble. Korean restaurants have used marble grills for generations. The heat distribution is different from cast iron. Watch." He heated the grill and placed pork belly on it. The plasma discharge was different, more diffuse, spread across a wider area. Dr. Zyral's instruments showed variations in the plasma characteristics, different ionization patterns, different energy distribution. "Fascinating," Dr. Zyral murmured. She'd become Hana's primary collaborator. They spent 12 hours a day working together, bridging the gap between human culinary tradition and alien material science. The stone substrate creates micro-pockets of plasma formation, more stable than metal but lower energy density. "We call it samgyeopsal," Taewoo explained to the gathered scientists. "Pork belly. The fat content is high, which increases plasma generation. Every Korean barbecue restaurant creates thousands of plasma reactions per night. We just thought it made the meat taste better." Professor Quintal had become a regular fixture in the kitchen. The elderly Vraxian spent most of his time talking to Taewoo, learning cooking techniques while analyzing the underlying physics. "Your species stumbled into an entire technology tree," he said, not for the first time. "Material science through trial and error refined over millennia, all in pursuit of better food." "Is that so strange?" Taewoo asked. "Humans are very serious about food." Across the room, Mirai was working with a team of engineers on something different. Pressure cookers. She'd realized that the pressurized environment created unique plasma states during the cooking process, plasma that formed in liquid, not air, plasma at even lower temperatures than pan-searing. "The pressure allows for plasma formation at 600 Kelvin, she explained to a group of Thalorian engineers. "The liquid medium changes everything. We're not just managing heat transfer, we're managing phase transitions in a confined space." One of the engineers shook his head in disbelief. "We use pressure vessels in our reactors. We never considered that the pressure itself might allow for lower energy plasma states. We were so focused on containing high energy plasma that we missed this entirely." Jinho had adapted to the chaos better than Hana expected. He'd set up a dedicated research station studying wok cooking, the high walls of the wok, the rapid temperature changes, the way experienced chefs tossed ingredients. Each movement created plasma discharge patterns that varied with technique. "It's almost like a language," he told Hana during a break. "The way the plasma forms tells you about the cook's skill level. Temperature control, timing. It's all visible in the plasma discharge if you know what to look for." Not everyone was happy about the changes. Velcros had mostly stayed away from the culinary research wing, but his influence was still felt. Some of the older scientists refused to participate, seeing the cooking research as beneath them. Others participated but made it clear they considered it a novelty, not serious science. But the younger researchers ate it up. Literally and figuratively. They crowded into the kitchen every day, asking questions, running experiments, and yes, eating the results. Food had become the universal language between species. 3 weeks into the research, a visitor arrived. Admiral Hyunwoo Kang stepped off a military transport, his uniform crisp, his expression serious. He was 55, with gray hair and eyes that didn't miss anything. He'd come from Earth specifically to see what was happening at the Institute. Hana met him in a small conference room away from the kitchens. Jinho was with her. So was Dr. Zyral, representing the galactic scientific community. "Dr. Kim," Admiral Kang said, sitting down across from her. "Do you understand what you've started?" "Scientific collaboration," Hana said carefully. "A strategic advantage," the Admiral corrected. "Every species in this galaxy uses electromagnetic containment for their reactors, their weapons, their industrial processes. We have something they don't, something they need." Hana felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. "That's not why we're doing this." "I know," Admiral Kang said. His voice wasn't unkind. You're a scientist. You want to share knowledge, but I'm a military officer. I have to think about Earth's security, about humanity's position in a galaxy full of species that are older and more advanced than us. With respect, Admiral, Dr. Zyril spoke up. This knowledge is already spreading. 47 species have representatives here. The data is being shared across the galaxy. You cannot contain it even if you wanted to. Which is exactly my concern, the Admiral said. If everyone has this technology, what does Earth gain? We could have leveraged this. Negotiated better terms. Secured better trade agreements. Jinho leaned forward. Admiral, I understand your perspective. But Dr. Kim's approach is smarter. By sharing freely, we've gained something more valuable than leverage. We've gained respect. Respect doesn't power starships, the Admiral said. No, Hana agreed. But collaboration does. Right now, humanity is at the center of the most important material science research in galactic history. We're learning from 47 different species. They're teaching us their technology while we teach them ours. In 5 years, Earth will have access to knowledge that would have taken us centuries to develop alone. She pulled up data on her tablet. Look at this. The Thalorians have shared their crystalline manufacturing techniques with us. The Vraxians are teaching us advanced thermal dynamics. 3 different species have offered to help us upgrade our starship engines, all because we shared our cooking pans. Admiral Kang studied the data. His expression softened slightly. You're proposing a strategy of mutual advancement. Everyone rises together? Not proposing, Hana said. Doing, it's already happening. And it's working. Yesterday, a Vraxian team helped Mirai solve a problem with pressure vessel design. Last week, Dr. Zyril taught me principles of crystalline structures that I'm applying to understanding cast iron seasoning. This is what collaboration looks like. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. I came here ready to argue with you, to tell you that you're being naive. But I'm looking at the data, and I'm seeing what you've accomplished in 1 month. It's more than Earth's entire diplomatic corps has managed in 2 years of galactic contact. So you'll support this approach? Jinho asked. I'll recommend it to command, the Admiral said. But Kim, you need to understand something. Not everyone thinks like you. There are species out there that will try to weaponize this technology, that will try to take advantage of Earth's openness. You need to be prepared for that. We will, Hana said. But we won't let fear stop us from doing what's right. After the Admiral left, Dr. Zyril turned to Hana. That was brave. Standing up to your military leadership. Hana shook her head. It wasn't about being brave. It was about being smart. The Admiral's right about one thing. Some species will try to abuse this knowledge. But the solution isn't to hoard it. The solution is to make sure everyone has it, so no one has an advantage. That evening, Hana walked through the culinary research wing. Scientists from dozens of species worked side by side. A Thalorian carefully monitored temperature, while a human chef explained the importance of timing. A Vraxian physicist discussed pressure dynamics with Mirai, while tasting kimchi stew from a pressure cooker. In the corner, Professor Quental was teaching 3 young researchers how to properly season a new cast iron pan. Patience, he was saying. This is not something you rush. Good seasoning takes time, like good science. Taewoo had set up a full Korean barbecue demonstration. 20 aliens sat around the grill, watching as he cooked and explained the science behind every sizzle. Some were taking notes. Others were just enjoying the food. All of them were learning. This was what Hana had wanted. Not dominance, not advantage, just this. Species learning from each other, finding common ground over shared meals, building something new together. Her grandmother would have loved this, Hana thought. The old woman had always believed that food brought people together. She'd never imagined those people would be from different planets. But the principle was the same. Good food. Good company. Good science. Sometimes that's all you need to change the galaxy. The announcement came during breakfast. Hana was eating rice and reviewing data when the message appeared on every screen in the Institute. It was from Forge Master Velcros. He was challenging her. Publicly, Jinho read it over her shoulder. His face went pale. He wants you to create a containment vessel for a fusion reactor. In 1 week. Hana, that's impossible. The challenge was specific. Velcros had designed a prototype fusion reactor. It needed a plasma containment vessel that could withstand 50 million Kelvin for 10 minutes straight. He was giving Hana 1 week to develop a solid-state solution using human cooking principles. If she succeeded, he would formally acknowledge human contributions to galactic science. If she failed, humanity would be asked to leave the Institute. "It's a trap," Mireille said. She'd come running as soon as she saw the announcement. "Even with all our research, we can't scale up to fusion temperatures in 1 week. It takes months to design something like that." Hana set down her chopsticks. She felt strangely calm. "He's scared. That's what this is. He's watched us for a month, seen what we're accomplishing, and he's terrified that everything he believed is wrong. So he's trying to prove we're just lucky, that our principles don't scale. Are you going to accept?" Jinho asked. "I already did," Hana said. "I sent the response 5 minutes ago." The next 3 days were chaos. Hana barely slept. She filled notebook after notebook with calculations, diagrams, and ideas. The problem was clear. Cast iron worked for cooking because it managed small, brief plasma interactions. A fusion reactor created sustained, high-energy plasma that would vaporize any normal material in seconds. "We need to understand the principle," she told her team on the second day. They'd gathered in a conference room. Hana had drawn diagrams all over the walls. Cast iron doesn't just hold heat. It has a specific structure. Porous, layered. The seasoning creates a reactive surface that can cycle through different states. Mireille was working on material analysis. "The key is the seasoning layer. It's not static. It breaks down and rebuilds constantly during cooking. Microscale destruction and regeneration. That's how it survives repeated plasma exposure. So we need a material that can regenerate," Taewoo said. "Something that repairs itself as fast as it gets damaged." Dr. Zyril had joined them, along with several Thalorian materials scientists who disagreed with Velcros's challenge. "We have ceramics that can withstand high temperatures," she offered. "And we have metals with self-healing properties. But combining them at the scale needed for a fusion reactor—" "Wait," Taewoo said suddenly. He pulled out his tablet. "I was thinking about this wrong. We keep comparing it to cast iron, but what about earthenware? Korean pottery. When you use it repeatedly, it develops a patina, a surface layer from the food and water. That layer actually makes the pot better over time." Hana stopped pacing. "Show me." Taewoo pulled up images of traditional Korean earthenware pots. "My grandmother had a pot she used for making stew. She used it for 40 years. The inside was coated with this layer of, I don't know, minerals from the water, residue from the food. It was never smooth, always textured. But that texture was what made it work so well." "A dynamic surface," Mireille said, understanding dawning on her face. "Not trying to be perfect. Just constantly adapting to what it's exposed to." They worked through the night. Dr. Zyril brought in the best ceramic engineers from the Thalorian teams. They designed a layered composite. Ceramic base for heat resistance, metallic middle layer for structural strength, and a surface layer inspired by both cast iron seasoning and earthenware patina. The surface layer was the key. It was designed to be ablative, sacrificial. Exposed to plasma, it would partially break down. But the breakdown products would immediately react with gases in the reactor chamber, forming new surface material. A cycle of destruction and regeneration, happening thousands of times per second. "We're not fighting the plasma," Hana explained to Admiral Kang during a video call on day 5. He'd been checking in daily. "We're creating a buffer zone, a surface where the plasma can interact and the material can respond. It's not containment in the traditional sense. It's coexistence. Will it work?" the Admiral asked. "I think so," Hana said. "The math works. The simulations work. But we won't know for sure until we test it in a real reactor." On the 7th day, they installed their containment vessel in Velcros's reactor. The Grand Forge's central chamber had been cleared. The Galactic Science Council was there. Representatives from all 47 species. News crews from across known space. This wasn't just a scientific test anymore. It was a spectacle. Velcro stood at the reactor controls. He looked at Hana. For a moment, his expression was unreadable. Then he spoke. "This is your last chance to withdraw. Save yourself the embarrassment of public failure. Start the reactor," Hana said. Velcros's crystalline fingers moved over the controls. The reactor hummed to life. Through viewing ports, they could see the plasma ignite, a ball of fire that rivaled stars. The temperature readings climbed. 10 million Kelvin. 20 million. 30 million. The chamber was silent except for the reactor's hum. Everyone watched the monitors. The containment vessel's temperature was rising. Surface ablation was occurring exactly as predicted, but the regeneration cycle was keeping pace. New surface material forming as fast as the old material broke down. 50 million Kelvin. The target temperature. 1 minute passed. The vessel held 5 minutes. Still holding. Dr. Zierl was watching her instruments with wide eyes. The surface layer is cycling perfectly. Ablation rate matches regeneration rate. It's working. It's actually working. 10 minutes. The required duration. But the vessel showed no signs of failure. Velcros let it run for 15 minutes before shutting down the reactor. His hands shook slightly as he checked the readings. The vessel had survived. Not just survived. It was still functional. The self-regenerating surface had adapted to the plasma exposure. The chamber erupted. Not in words at first, just sound. Alien voices in languages Hana didn't speak, all expressing the same shock and wonder. Professor Quental started clapping, his four hands creating a rhythmic pattern. Others joined in. Velcro stood frozen at the controls. He stared at the data screens for a long moment. Then he turned to face Hana. He walked toward her slowly. The crowd fell silent. When he reached her, Velcro did something unexpected. He extended his hand in a human gesture. "I was wrong," he said. His voice was quiet, but in the silent chamber, everyone heard. "Not just about plasma containment. About everything. Your species has something we lost, humility, the willingness to learn from simple things. I would be honored if you would teach me." Hana took his hand. His crystalline skin was cool to the touch. "I'd like that. But I want to learn from you too. That's what this is about. Learning from each other." The crowd started clapping again. This time it didn't stop. It built into a roar that filled the chamber. Representatives from the Galactic Science Council approached. Contracts were being drafted. Proposals for joint research. Requests for human consultation on dozens of projects. That evening, after the formal ceremonies and speeches, Hana found a quiet corner. Jinho and Mirai found her there. "You did it," Jinho said. "You actually did it." "We did it," Hana corrected. "All of us. Human cooking tradition plus alien materials science. That's what made it work." Miri sat down beside her. "Do you realize what this means? Compact fusion reactors, new propulsion systems, manufacturing processes that were impossible before. We just changed everything." "Maybe," Hana said. "But more importantly, we proved something. That innovation doesn't always come from the most advanced technology. Sometimes it comes from understanding old technology in new ways. From being willing to learn from grandmothers and chefs and traditional craftspeople." She pulled out her notebook, the one filled with recipes and molecular diagrams. "You know what I'm going to do next? I'm going to write to every research institution on Earth. I'm going to tell them to talk to traditional craftspeople, potters, blacksmiths, weavers, people who have been using materials in specific ways for generations. Because if cast iron pans and earthenware pots can teach us about plasma containment, what else have we been missing?" Jinho smiled. "You're going to turn the entire galaxy into a cooking school, aren't you?" "If that's what it takes," Hana said, and for the first time in a week she laughed. 6 months after the fusion reactor demonstration, Earth looked different from space. New orbital stations surrounded the planet. Ships from 47 different worlds came and went constantly. What had been humanity's quiet corner of the galaxy was now one of its busiest crossroads. Hana stood in her office in Seoul. Through the window she could see the new Galactic Institute campus. It was smaller than the one on Vraxis Prime, but it was Earth's, and it was always full. Scientists from across known space came to study human cultural practices. Not just cooking anymore, everything. Her tablet showed the latest numbers. Human-designed plasma containment systems were being installed in 200 reactors across 15 star systems. 3 different species had adopted human cooking techniques not for food, but for materials research. Earth's trade agreements had been renegotiated. Humanity wasn't asking for favors anymore. They were equal partners. But success brought new problems. Ambassador Seola Lee sat across from Hana. She was 50, with gray streaks in her black hair and sharp eyes that saw through diplomatic nonsense. She'd been appointed humanity's representative to the Galactic Trade Federation after the old ambassador retired in frustration. "We have a situation," Lee said. She pulled up a report on her tablet. "A breakaway colony called New Meridian. They've taken human plasma containment designs and weaponized them. They're building advanced weapons using your research. Hana felt sick. Show me. The images were clear. Compact plasma weapons, ship-mounted systems, all using the self-regenerating containment principles that Hana had developed from studying cast iron pans. Technology meant to power reactors, turned into tools of destruction. The Galactic Security Council is demanding answers, Lee continued. They want Earth to take responsibility. Some members are calling for restrictions on human technology sharing. They say we've been reckless. This wasn't supposed to happen, Hana said quietly. I know, Lee said. But Admiral Kang warned us, remember? He said not everyone would use this knowledge responsibly. Hana stood and paced. Outside her window, an alien ship landed at the Institute. Students hurried to meet it. She'd created this. The open sharing. The free exchange of knowledge. And now someone had turned it into weapons. What do they want me to do? She asked. Stop sharing. Put restrictions on the research? That's one option, Lee said. Or you present a solution. The Security Council meets in 3 days. They're expecting Earth to have answers. Hana called an emergency meeting. Her core team gathered in the conference room. Jinho, Mireille, and Taewoo were there. So was Dr. Zyril, who'd become a permanent liaison between Earth and the galactic scientific community. Professor Quental joined via hologram, his forearms gesturing as he spoke. This was inevitable, Professor Quental said sadly. Any technology can be weaponized. The question is how we respond. We could restrict access, Mireille suggested. Make people apply for permission to use the technology. Screen them. That goes against everything we've built, Jinho said. We succeeded because we shared freely. Start restricting access and we become just another group hoarding knowledge. Taewoo was quiet. Then he spoke. What if we're thinking about this wrong? We've been focusing on the technology, but that's not what makes human cooking special. Hana turned to him. Explain. Recipes, Taewoo said. Think about how recipes work on Earth. Anyone can read a recipe for making kimchi. The instructions are free, public, but you can't just read the recipe once and make perfect kimchi. You have to practice. You have to understand the fundamentals. You have to develop skill. And? Mireille asked. And that journey teaches you something more important than the recipe. It teaches you respect for the process, understanding of why each step matters. My grandmother could make perfect kimchi, but she could also tell you why the cabbage needs to be salted just right, why the fermentation temperature matters. The recipe was just the beginning. The wisdom came from the practice. Hana sat down slowly. You're saying we should share everything but make sure people understand they're learning a process, not just copying a design. More than that, Dr. Zyril said, catching on. We create a framework, like human culinary education. You don't start by making a 5-course meal. You start with basic techniques. Each level builds on the last. By the time you have the skills to make advanced technology, you also have the wisdom to use it responsibly. The culinary protocol, Hana said slowly. We structure technology sharing like cooking education. Everything is available. Nothing is hidden. But you have to demonstrate understanding of basic principles before accessing advanced applications. Not because we're restricting access. Because that's how learning works. The next 3 days were intense. Hana worked with Ambassador Lee to develop the proposal. They studied how human culinary traditions had passed down knowledge for thousands of years. Apprenticeships, cooking schools, family recipes that required years to master. The key insight was simple. You couldn't skip steps. Someone who'd never cooked couldn't make a soufflé, not because the recipe was secret, but because they lacked the fundamental skills. The learning process itself built judgment. Admiral Kang, surprisingly, became one of their biggest supporters. I was wrong to think of this as a weapon, he told Hana during a video call. It's a bridge. If we weaponize it, we destroy that bridge. But if we use it to build understanding, we create something more valuable than any military advantage. On the 3rd day, Hana stood before the Galactic Security Council. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from species of vastly different sizes. Some sat in chairs, some floated, some stood on platforms. All of them watched her with expressions ranging from hostility to curiosity. You want to know how Earth will prevent misuse of our technology? Hana began. But that's the wrong question. The right question is, how do we ensure that everyone who has access to advanced technology also has the wisdom to use it responsibly? She pulled up her presentation. On Earth, we have a saying, "You can't run before you learn to walk." Our proposal is simple. We create a galactic framework modeled on human culinary education. All knowledge is freely available, but access to advanced applications requires demonstrated understanding of fundamental principles. This is just restriction by another name, one council member objected. A tall being with scales and multiple eyes? No, Hana said. It's education. Let me give you an example. New Meridian built weapons using our plasma containment designs, but they skipped the fundamental research. They didn't understand why the designs work. That makes their weapons unstable, dangerous to the user as much as the target. If they'd gone through proper education, they would understand that weaponizing this technology is counterproductive. The weapons are less effective than the peaceful applications. Dr. Zyril stood to speak. I have studied human culinary traditions for 6 months. What Dr. Kim is proposing is not restriction. It is the most efficient way to spread knowledge. By ensuring each learner understands the fundamentals, we prevent dangerous misapplications while accelerating genuine advancement. Professor Quental added his voice. We have tried restricted access before. It creates black markets, dangerous shortcuts. This approach is different. It makes the shortcuts impossible because you cannot skip the learning process. The debate lasted for hours. But slowly the council came around. Not because Earth demanded it, because the logic was sound, because it solved their problem without creating new ones. The vote was close, but it passed. The culinary protocol became official galactic policy. Technology would be shared freely, but recipients had to demonstrate progressive understanding, building skills from fundamental to advanced applications. For New Meridian, the council offered a choice. Destroy their weapons and enter the educational framework or face sanctions. They chose education. 3 months later, Hana visited the first Galactic Culinary Exchange Center. It wasn't on Earth or Vraxis Prime. It was on a neutral station between 12 different star systems. The facility was huge, part cooking school, part research laboratory, part cultural center. Master Chef Junho Nam was there. The 62-year-old had become an unlikely galactic celebrity. He stood at a cooking station, teaching 20 alien students how to properly season a cast iron pan. His hands moved with practiced ease. Patience, he told them in his accented but clear galactic common. This is not something you rush. Good seasoning takes time, like good science, like good wisdom. In another section, Mirai taught advanced materials engineering to students who'd completed the basic courses. In another, Taewoo demonstrated Korean barbecue techniques while discussing thermal dynamics. In another, Dr. Zyril led a seminar on crystalline structures, using examples from both Thalorian technology and human pottery. Hana walked through the facility, watching species from across the galaxy learn from each other. This was what she'd wanted. Not domination, not even leadership. Just this, mutual growth, shared wisdom. Progress built on understanding rather than competition. Ambassador Lee found her near the main teaching kitchen. The first quarterly report is ready. 53 planets have adopted the culinary protocol. Technology sharing is up 40%. Military conflicts are down 15%. It's working. Good, Hana said.